What's it really like in here?
You'll lose your life up in here. That's what'll happen. You'll lose your life up in here if you don't walk a certain code or a certain path. LA, they had dubbed me the flashy dresser 7-Eleven bandit. Every time I robbed something, I had a Louis Vuitton or Gucci or Versace bucket hat. So that's why they called me the flashy dresser bandit. Me being one of the founding members of the Rollin 40 Crips. My life consisted of being this gang member from the 40s who was also a hustler who became a pimp.
What's a pimp's lifestyle?
Not caring about nothing else but your money. My attorney told me, you're now facing 7 life sentences. I tell you what, you tell that judge he could take them 7 life sentences and double it. I'll raise him on that, because I ain't doing near 1 day of them. I said, because tonight it's over with. I'm going to kill myself.
Between the lines.
Hey guys, welcome.
Don't do that. Welcome to another episode, everyone. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. As we just heard, this is one of the co-founders of the infamous Rollin 40s Crips. He faced, as we just heard, 7 life sentences. And as he just alluded to, he refused to do even 1 day of that, but he is here in prison. So he did receive some sort of sentence. Let's see what it is. He is also a former PIMP. Perhaps he has turned his life around being one of the co-founders of one of the most infamous Crip gangs, and is perhaps going to now lead the youth into a better life.
Back to Between the Lines. I am your host, Yvonne Rojas, and today we're going between the lines with
Roderick Cooley, also known as Chosen.
Chosen. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I grew up in Los Angeles, the Crenshaw district, Crenshaw and Vernon, actually being one of the day one help founding members of the Rollin 40 Crips is what I started off as.
Really?
Yes.
Tell me about that. How did that come about?
Well, we were all just hustlers out there called Vernon Avenue Hustlers at first. And we dabbled in other things and ended up getting into it with a blood gang, which was the VNGs. I was one of the ones who actually started that war. And in my neighborhood, they all know me as C. Capone, Crazy Capone.
Crazy Capone.
Yeah.
How old were you during this time?
At this time, I was like about 13, 14.
Young.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, we were one of the last, in that era in the 80s, we really came about in like 1984 as the 40 Avenue Crips. And we just grew from there and everything. And I look
1984? That hasn't been a very long time. Okay, so big Crazy Capone here, C. Capone, goes by the name Chosen now. Seems more like a hood name or a family name given to him because he said that he dressed like he was chosen or what have you. But his gang name then, as the co-founder of the 40 Crips, would be Crazy Capone, C. Capone. And as we heard early on, he faced 7 life sentences. And since he's saying that that's the name that they know him by in the neighborhood, as referring to as if it was back in the days, perhaps alluding to the fact that he no longer subscribes to that sort of life, that sort of street life, and is no longer pushing that sort of agenda, which is hopefully the case.
At it today and back at it today and just see how much it's grew. And I'm not proud of it because a lot of those dudes who I watched grow up either followed me to where they went to their deathbed, or a lot of them got life in prison. And that's not something I'm proud of. I'm on a different walking path now today, but from that time on, it took a lot of struggles, storms for me to get to this point where I'm at right now. I started a war with drug dealers where I ended up robbing some drug dealers for about 3 kilos of cocaine. I took off to Seattle, Washington, at that time I was like 17.
Let's go back really quick to starting the gang, starting the beginnings of that.
Okay.
What was the purpose of that, and what did you want like the group of men to represent?
Well, the purpose was we was just hustlers at first. We were about getting some money by all means necessary, whether it was robbing banks, hitting malls, back in that area, everybody was wearing Fila BJ and Sergio Tacchini, and we was hitting like sporting goods stores, taking all those sweatsuits, selling. We was hustling, selling drugs, whatever it took. And it came about where we had a clash with a rival gang, which was Bloods, and that's when the Cripping came about in the 40s, you know, and it just grew from there with the help of some guys like Big Smiley, who's Tony Jake, and a few others, Mommy Pookie and Junebug, Stoney, all of us, you know, and we just grew from there, and we watched all the little youngsters, whether it been our nieces and nephews, because all my nieces and nephews represent the neighborhood, or their nieces to their kids nowadays.
Still.
Yeah, because you know we're all up in age. I'm pushing 60 right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
And so over the years we just kept on pushing and pushing and growing, where it became probably one of the biggest Crip gangs on the west side of Los Angeles, the 40s.
In the 40s?
In the 40s, yes. That lifestyle consisted of just protecting and loving my homies, and as they protected and loved me, you know what I mean? We was a family more so. And there's a lot of us, well, you know, for some, received the love in the hood that they couldn't receive at home.
Did you have a home, like parents?
I did.
Or sisters,
I had both
brothers?
my parents. I have 5 older sisters. I'm the baby of the family. And
Same mom and dad?
Same, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So you come from like a
I come
household.
from a structured family,
Yeah.
absolutely. Grew up in the church, everything, church choir.
So how did you get involved in the gangs at 13 years old? Were your parents involved at all in that stuff?
No, my parents was not involved. My mom owned her own nursery schools and everything. Where her and my dad, they owned a chain of nursery schools.
Wow.
And so it was more so like my cousin. I watched my cousin, which is Big Petey Wack from the Rollin 60s. I grew up following his steps. He was something I wanted to be like. He had that status in that neighborhood, and I wanted that same status, you know? So it was more so, I didn't have to go out and do those things because I was a kid, came up with a silver spoon, had all the little go-karts, the dirt bike motorcycles, everything. I had my first car when I was 12 years old.
You never were missing anything.
I was never
hungry,
missing
shoes,
anything.
Nothing. You were good.
Nothing. I was
taken
good.
care of.
Taken care of. In fact, I was like a straight A student in school. You know, which I am right now in college here. Nice. You know, but
yeah, and that's really the misconception. Shout out to Petey Wack from Rollin 60s. I do know that individual. This is his cousin, as he said. Again, this is the co-founder of the 40s Crip. And the influence is strong there in the neighborhood. He said he wanted to be like his cousin. He wanted to be like Petey Wack. And so he started to imitate him, essentially. He said that he didn't have to go out and do what he did, implying that he went out and did some things, trying to imitate or be more like his cousin to get the status that his cousin had. And that's what happens again in these neighborhoods. The influence is strong, particularly if you don't have influence inside of the home. But also, he's really breaking some of the misconceptions, because even as the interviewer is asking him, were both parents in the home? He said, well, yeah, both parents were in the home. Were they involved in gangs? How come you got involved in gangs at 13? Were they involved in gangs? Just really a stereotype, not to criticize the interviewer. She's just asking questions. But this is typically the stereotype that it was a parentless household or a one-parent home. And that's why this individual, and not just a stereotype, even the data supports that one-parent households typically or at least more so, in incarceration than two-parent households. So her asking the question again, it's not a criticism, but he is an exception to that rule. He had both parents in the home. Neither parent were gang members. As he said, his parents, or at least his mother, owned a nursing home or multiple. It's not always kids running amok, children, 13-year-olds, who only have one parent in the household. Sometimes they have both, and they still just want to be recalcitrant, do their own thing, headstrong, not listen. And no matter how hard both parents are trying to steer their child in the right direction, particularly if you live in certain environments and neighborhoods, you can fall subject to the influences there that are stronger oftentimes than the influences inside of the home.
It was more so me being that figure that wanted to be seen, you know.
Respected, tough.
Respect, exactly, you know. And I knew I had a lot of clout where many followed, I led them in the wrong way. It wasn't in the right way, which I should have done for. You know, my mom always told me, well, you was chosen for something. That's how my nickname Chosen came about. But I began to use it for all the wrong reasons, you know. And right now I'm in the process of writing a book, but that's another story I get to. But as we grew up just as one tight net in the 40s. And I had to leave and go out of town for a while because of the robbery I committed. So I went up to Seattle, Washington at that time. And I have all my cousins up there, which were all pimps, you know, and I embraced that lifestyle, you know. So my life consisted of being this gang member from the 40s who was also a hustler who became a pimp. You know, and it was, I glorified that lifestyle, and I wasn't giving my glory in the right places. I wasn't doing the right things with my life. And I knew it. I knew I didn't need to be out in the streets doing the things I did, because all I had to do was, I want this, I want that, and I got it from my parents or my sisters.
Right.
You know?
Tell me more about the life as a pimp.
When I went to Seattle, it was my cousins.
And you were fleeing.
Excuse me?
You fled from Los Angeles to
Yes,
Seattle, so
yes.
you were already.
Yes.
Okay.
And I grew up with my cousins in Touche and Marcus, and they were pimps out there in Seattle, and I embraced that lifestyle. I love that lifestyle that they live.
What's that lifestyle? What's a pimp's lifestyle? Like a real pimp's lifestyle?
Yeah, not caring about nothing else but your money, you know? And it was just simple. It wasn't about being in love or anything like that.
Yeah, I bet. We know what they say about pimps, or at least what they used to say back in the days, back in my day, that a pimp would sell his own behind for money. And as he just said, as a pimp, you're only thinking about the money. I guess as a hustler, period, regardless of what your hustle is out there in the street, anything that is illicit, illegal, you're probably focused more on the money than anything else, no matter how the money is coming in. But particularly pimps have a reputation for being more inclined to the money, and that they will essentially do anything for money. I don't know if that is true, that these individuals would sell their smelly behinds even for some cash, but I would not put it past some of them. I don't like these sort of individuals. I have no problem with this individual right here himself. Seems like a clean-cut individual, bright, who's perhaps changed his life and changed his ways, and many of us need the space to do so. He's not an old individual that's still doing this. Well, he's incarcerated, as we can see, but he's not out here committing these sort of crimes now. These individuals, they abuse women, and I'm totally against that. And I believe that you can find another way to get your money.
When you say but your money, you mean like using girls to get money?
Absolutely. I never forced no woman to get out there and do anything for me.
Yeah,
They
walk
chose
me
to
through
do it.
that. The stigma of what pimping is, and how did you get the girls then if you didn't force them?
I didn't choose them, they chose me.
How does a girl choose a pimp?
That's like, they looking for more so like a father figure in their life, someone who's gonna hold them down as well as they holding the man down, you know? And they gravitate to that, and they have no problem with going out there doing what they do to make sure.
Well, I don't know what kind of father figure that is. That's not the kind of daddy that they need. So they're seeking a father figure. They seek you out because they need some sort of guidance and direction, and you do a thing that a father would not do. So you're not a father figure, and they're not clearly not seeking a father figure in you. They're not going to find the father figure in you because their fathers, more than likely, certainly there are some cases, certainly there are exceptions, but for the most part, generally speaking, a father is not going to, PIMP his daughter out. So if they're looking for a father figure in you, then you took advantage of them by doing something that a father would not do and should not ever do.
They man is happy and satisfied.
Their man, the
Yeah.
pimp, or their man that they're gonna.
The pimp, who they consider their man, yeah.
So, what would make you as a pimp happy and satisfied with the girls?
Them bringing them at that time,
Money.
them bringing in my money every night like they're supposed
And like,
to.
how much money would you be making? Like on a good night.
On a good night, I would probably bring in about 4,000 on a good night
With how many girls?
with 2 to 3 girls.
2 to 3 girls, 4,000. And did you pick the men for them? Like, how
No.
does that arrangement work, and where is
Okay,
it?
a lot of when they out there, they may get phone numbers from different tricks, and they may put them down as they regular
Client.
and now they off the phone, and whenever they call, like when I was in Seattle, I was doing it through an escort service.
Okay.
I had my girl hooked up on the escort service, and the escort service would call her and tell her, we got a date here at this hotel. I would take her to the hotel,
Drop her off.
drop her off, pick her up.
And she had a
so-
phone to call you.
No, at that time, we didn't have cell phones.
Yes.
We had pagers.
Okay, so what was like the number? Just like this, just page each other?
Yeah.
I'm
she
ready?
Just,
Pick me
yeah,
up?
I'm page. When I get that page, her number, I know it's her. I'm ready. I'm going to pick her up.
And what were the girls like when they came back from the experience?
First thing they do is put the money in my hand.
And how are they like physically and emotionally? Are they like drained? Are they like
No,
sad?
they're
Are
happy.
They're happy.
Yeah, a lot of times, Daddy, he want me to come go here with him on this day, or he want me to do this. So it was more so of a fulfillment for them more than it was for me.
And how much money would you give them from what they made?
I just took care of them, make sure their hair, their nails stayed down, make sure they had a roof over their head, make sure they was fed.
So you
know?
paid for their whole lifestyle?
Absolutely.
Everything. And so how long were you pimp for?
Well, when I first started, this was like 86, 87, up until I just got arrested, 22, this past 22.
This past 2022?
2022, yes.
Also for a long time you were a pimp.
Yes.
And did it evolve and change with all of the assisted technology?
It
Like, do they still? I feel like there's AI. I mean, there's a
yeah. Well, now
OnlyFans,
you got different sites that girls will go on and put themselves on, and like my girl now, my girl KK, who I had, I would film her and she would go on these different sites and the tricks would go on there and like, yeah, I want you. You know what I mean?
So that lifestyle is still huge.
Yeah, they just did a documentary on me on a website called Soft White Underbelly.
Okay.
I'm on there as a chosen to pimp. That's why the CO just had, because he watched
Yeah.
the documentary on me.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And are you proud of being a pimp?
I'm not.
When did that change? Because that was just 2022.
Yeah, that changed.
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing because, you sort of sound like you're proud of it. I don't hear any remorse or that was a bad lifestyle or whatever, but it's still a long way to go here with this interview, apparently. This is not the lifestyle that any of us should be trying to live. Certainly he's doing this to black women. And again, I'm not here to criticize this man. He's locked up. But I didn't know that it had just been since 2022. It has not been that long. I thought maybe he stopped many years ago, even decades. He's talking about 4 years ago that he stopped, and that's because he got locked up, as he said. When did you stop? See, I started 1986, 2022. My goodness. So your whole life you were doing this. You only stopped when you got locked up. I stopped when I got locked up in 2022. When they were trying to give him 7 life sentences, which I'm assuming he did not receive, since he said that he would blank himself before he allowed that to happen.
When I got locked up right now, I was in there in county jail because what I'm in here for now is kidnap robbery.
Tell me about that day.
I became one of my own best customers and started using crystal meth. And I went on a robbery spree, me and my girl. where
But did you need the money to rob?
no, it just became an addiction.
So just the, okay.
It's just a thrill. It became an addiction, the excitement of it. In L.A., they had dubbed me the flashy dresser 7-Eleven bandit because I was robbing all the 7-Elevens and CVS's, making them open the safes.
Or how many did you rob? 7-Elevens.
I'll put it like this. I was convicted of 4 and 1 kidnap. How many I robbed, I don't want to incriminate myself.
Yeah, of course.
But I was convicted of 4.
And 1 kidnap.
And 1 kidnap.
And when you went up on 7-Elevens, did you have a gun? Like, how did that work? How do you do?
Yeah, it was really, wasn't even pulling the gun, just let's go to the safe.
How much money would you get from the 7-Eleven?
On the 7-Elevens, it'd be like maybe 3,000-4,000, but when I did the CVS, I got 38,000.
30,000 in one night.
In one night.
And what about the kidnapping? Who'd you kidnap?
I didn't. They call it a kidnap because I made them go from the front desk where the register is to the office and open the safe.
Right. Behind them with the gun.
And they call that a kidnap.
And that was just in 2022.
That was in 2022. I received a 24-year sentence for that.
What do you feel about that sentence? You think that was too much?
I put it in God's hands. It wasn't up to me anymore. I was at the point where I was in Los Angeles County Jail, and when my attorney, because at first they were going to give me a program, they only had me for 1 robbery. Mm-hmm. They were going to give me a program.
So that's a long time, 24 years, particularly because of his age. I don't know exactly what his age is. He began by saying that he's pushing 60 years old. Whatever, 57 years old, maybe 58, 59, 56 at least. That was 4 years ago. He got 24 years, so still 20 years to go. But let's say with 85%, because these are serious crimes here in California, it would be 85% that you would have to do with the way that the law is set up. He's still looking at doing another 14 years, some 13 years, and he's already 60, nearly. Looking at coming out when he's 70 something, 72, 73 years old.
Program. And some detectives showed up to court on the day of my sentence, and my attorney told me, no, they're hitting you with more, and you're now facing 7 life sentences.
7 life sentences?
That's what I was facing. If I would have went to trial and lost, I would have received 7 life sentences. So I told my attorney at that point, I tell you what, you tell that judge he could take them 7 life sentences and double it. I'll raise him on that, because I ain't doing near 1 day of them. I said, because tonight it's over with. I'm going to kill myself. I had gotten to that point. So they called back to the county jail and had me placed on a suicide watch. I fell to my knees that night. As I was crying, a lady came to my door, and I thought she was there as a mental health worker to bring me some medication, or asked me if I needed medication. She asked me, did I want some Christian literature? I said, yes, I do. She slid some paperwork under the door of the cell. When I read it, the date said March 26, 1954. Now, at that time, I had been laying in my cell trying to recall a scripture I knew in the Bible about God speaking through Moses at the burning bush in Exodus 3:14. And I couldn't remember where that scripture was in the Bible to save my life. And then I remember Jesus saying it in John 58, was it 9:58, when Jesus was speaking about it. And I was trying to put the two together, but when I received that template, that scripture was on the beginning, on the front page of that template. Oh my gosh. That I was trying to remember. Oh my gosh. And so at the time I just started crying. And while I'm crying, I hear this voice. And he's telling me, don't hurt yourself. I got a plan for you.
God?
Yes. And I'm like tripping. I'm like, no, I know I'm not hearing what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
I know I'm really not hearing this. And he says, I've been calling you for a while.
Oh my God.
You have been misbehaving, and I have a plan for your life. And
Okay, so God is talking to him. I hear a lot of this sort of testimony, of course, with a lot of individuals that's locked up. I never had this sort of religious testimony. I never turned to God like that inside of prison. As many of you know, I've done over 30 years of incarceration. If you're new to the channel, the inside story here with me, Damian Porter, please subscribe to the channel. And though I was correcting my ways and doing my best to correct many of my ways, I did not turn, overzealously to religion or at all, actually. But that's me. Many individuals in there, they do turn to religion. Some of them are very serious. It's authentic. They come home and they stick with it. They go to church, they go to the mosque, etc. And then some, they are not. They are not reformed at all. I can't necessarily read this individual, but I'm not trying to criticize him or inflate him either. Hopefully he does come home, and when he does, he's an asset to the community. That's it. Being a PIMP is not an asset to the community. It is an absolute detriment. None of these individuals should be in the community that do this. They should not be allowed to walk the main line in prison either. If you are in there, because you have abused a woman, that profession alone is abuse of a woman. And more than that, you have abused her in some way to keep her in line or keep her in order, this stuff that these PIMPs do. So no, I'm totally against it. I'm not with it. I'll let him go for a little bit longer. I want to see how he feels now, how he's living his life now, because again, this was just a few years ago that this was transpiring.
I said to him, I said, God, is this really you? Show me what you want me to do. And he says, I've been calling you for some time, And I said, Lord, I don't know what you want me to do, but just lead me, please, because I'm about to end it. And I was always a gifted person. I did rap music. I do gospel rap, right, even right now. And my mom always raised me up, to trust in the Lord and everything. And I wasn't doing that throughout my lifetime. I was doing other things. And I took that name Chosen, was called Chosen the Pimp, instead of what I was chosen to be, his vessel. And so at that time, I asked a female deputy, Miss Martinez, I'll never forget her. She's a LA County sheriff. I asked her, I said, can I have a Bible, please? And she went and within 5 minutes brought me back a Bible. And
First time? First time with the Bible?
It's not my first time with the Bible, no. I just didn't believe, because, when I was in prison prior to that, where, dudes used to ask me to rap for them, because I always do gospel rap, And I was into it then, but I didn't believe. I lost my faith with it because my cousin had got killed, who I was close to, and then I lost my mom at the same time. So it really made me like, is God real? But I found that out in 2022 in that cell, that God really is real. So I began to study. I began to study, and it's not, my life story is like a book. I don't want to put too much on the negative, like I'm proud of it or glorifying it. I'll give you the bits and pieces of it, but now I live for the glory of God, and that's where I'm walking. That's where my walk. I'm in American Bible Academy. I got a scholarship through them where I need just 2 more certificates to achieve my degree for a minister.
Wow.
And
wow.
It's like I know what God is using me for. I have a purpose, in life, and my purpose ain't to be here. I have maybe about 8 more years to do on my sentence. I'm hoping to God that comes down. I'm trying to get to a fire camp and everything where I'll probably be out in about 5 years. But, I understand my purpose in life now.
What is
Before I didn't have a purpose. And my purpose is to move for God, do his work, for him, for his glory.
8 more years, he says. That's what he's hoping for anyway, at least, because nothing is guaranteed there in prison. Once you get yourself in that sort of situation, you're not guaranteed to come home. Hopefully he does. And hopefully, again, he changes his ways once he does come home, because it does not make a difference if you come home if you're just going to return to prison. Of course, he would be older than he is even now, be in his 60s, late 60s even by the time he comes home. Not individuals who necessarily are inclined to crime at that age. You don't see many 70-year-olds running around robbing people or selling drugs or any of this stuff because of their age. They can't even get around that good. So the chances of him committing another crime once he comes home, even though you can still commit the sort of crime that he was committing, you can lay up in the bed and do that all day. I don't know. But hopefully he's changed his ways and makes it out of there and, again, provides something to the community instead of extracting something from the community. But we'll see.
Not mine.
And what do you think his assignment is for you?
I had a lot of these young brothers on this yard now today, and I think back,
But man, it'd be like I'm in church sometimes, listening to something, listening to Sean Gathright. Many of you did not watch that video that I did yesterday on Julio Fulio and his murder trial. And he was just talking about God on and on in his death penalty phase. He got on the stand and testified on his own behalf, looking to save his life. The individual accused took accountability for it and thus found guilty of the murder of Julio Fulio, the rapper. He was going on and on about God during this death penalty phase to the jury as they're going to decide whether he lives or dies. And I mean, it was deep. It was moving. He knew the Bible left and right, said he read the Bible from top to bottom, that he's a child of God, that God is using him as a vessel, that God, I remember him saying that God is working through him to help save the youth. And now this man here is going on and on about God. Again, some of this be real, some of this is authentic, some of these individuals really find God in prison. You say, well, why did he find it? I'm making light of it myself. And we may say, well, how come they find God in prison and not on the street or what have you? And really, it's because I believe it's just human nature. When any of us get into a situation, we call on someone like that, God or our mother or something. George Floyd called out for his mother as Derek Chauvin was snuffing the life out of him. He was calling out for his mother. I saw a show on Dateline or something just 2 nights or so ago where a woman came up missing. Her husband did it, ran her off the road, ran her off a cliff on purpose. She lost her life in the car, but she was with 911 as he was following her, chasing her, and they had the 911 call, and it was diabolical. It was horrific, really, the 911 call, knowing what ended up happening. She's trying to get them there, but she ended up calling out for her mother while she was being chased down and run off the cliff. And her mother was nowhere around. She was on the phone with the police, not her mother. But, we find ourselves, you get shot, you're beaten bad, you seem like you're about to lose your life or whatever. You're in a life-threatening situation. That is when you call on God. That is when you call on your mother or someone who you believe that can help you. So these individuals who end up in prison, there are many people in the hospital that call on God, regardless of what they're in there for. If you've been in a car accident, you're sitting in a car, you're praying to God, you're calling on God. When something bad happens, you're asking God to get you out of the situation. That's just human nature. People wonder how come these individuals go to prison and start to call on God because they are in a miserable, horrific situation. They want to get out of that situation, and they do believe that God can get them out. Some of them really internalize this and believe it. Some of them are faking the funk.
I first came to prison in 1989. Prison was different then. Mm-hmm. It was almost like it was a fun thing to do, to leave the streets and come in here and kick it with the homies for a little bit. And this is no more fun to me, you know? And I'm thankful that God is still keeping me youthful and strong, you know? And I try to lead and guide these dudes in the right way now.
I hope so.
In the wrong way. Because I have a few young dudes that's on this yard.
I hope it's not fun to you anymore at 60 years old or nearly 60. Prison better not be fun at this point. You need to be at home eating ice cream with your grandkids, smoking on your little doobie, watching the game, chilling. Not up inside of that hell cell. No, it's not a game. I'm sure you do not find it funny at this point.
That's out of my neighborhood, you know.
How many years have you been in prison for?
I've been in prison right now for 4 years on this sentence.
How many terms have as well?
I've done 5 terms.
5 terms, so how many years in total?
In total, I've been in prison in total more than half of my life. The first time I came in '89, I did 2 years. Then I turned around and came back in, was it '92, and did 5 years. And then I came back in '97, right after getting out for robbery, and did 20 years to 2017. I stayed out for 5 years from 2017 to 2022 and came back now like 24 years since.
Are you proud of yourself?
I'm not proud of the life I live at what it is. No, I'm not proud of that at all.
Yeah, whoa. So he's nearly 60. He did 20 years, got out 2017. So he got out 9 years ago. He was nearly 50 when he was out. Stayed out for 5 years. Into his early 50s, he stayed out there. 51, 52, 53. I'm 52. He stayed out for 5 years. And now he's back in prison, been back in there since 2022 when he was in his mid-50s, 54, 55, whatever, 54, 53, and got a 24-year sentence in his early 50s, ended up with a 24-year sentence after doing 20 years and staying out for 5, okay, but no, going back for 20 after staying out for 5 at that age. Now you're going to get out when you're nearly 70 or whatever. At what point do we learn? At what point do we say it's over? I would say after that 20-year bid, if nothing else, that was your 4th bid. You just did 20. Now you head into your 50s, and then you make it into your 50s on the street, staying out for 5 years. It's time to continue to stay out and be free. What did you end up? Well, he said robbing 7-Elevens. And you're in your early 50s, 53, 54 years old. And you out robbing 7-Elevens. The safe or not, $3,000 or $4,000 in there, it's not worth it. Not worth 24 years of your life after you just gave them 20 years. And when you're 53 and 54 years old, and now 57, 58, and have another 8, 9, 10 years to go, no way. Stay out, man.
Because it's nothing to be proud of. You know, I was blinded in ways. I was like the blind I was being led by the blind as well. Because those before me didn't lead us the right way, and we followed what they was doing. And I did the same thing for those behind me.
Why do you think it took you so long to get to this point, to finally realize? Because that was just 4 years ago, 2022. I mean, it's really recent.
Yeah, it was a life of drugs, a life of ripping and running streets, doing me, and not caring about what nobody else thought. You know, if it wasn't for me, I didn't care about nothing else. It was all about me.
Right.
You know, I felt I was the prize, so I didn't care about nobody else. And I come to find out that's not who I am at all. I'm not that person that I was then, by far, you know. I really come to find out I'm really a good person.
Yeah, who are you today?
I'm Roger Cooley's God's chosen vessel. You know, I'm not C. Capone, Crazy Capone. I'm not no longer chosen a pimp. You know, I'm a child of God today.
And what message do you have for the youth that are listening right now that maybe are on the same path as you were and that have no knowledge of any other world?
Before you step into that lane that I drove down, think about it, because it's not all the glamour and glitz that you think it is. Because you see your homie in the hood doing something that you like. Don't think that that's all good. Even if it's negative and they're out there, those who getting you to follow in that lane of gang banging, it's a lot more to life than coming up here, because this is not life up in here. This isn't living at all.
Yeah. People don't know what it's like in here, but they think it's cool. It's like a badge of I went to prison.
No,
but
it's not a badge.
What's it really like in here?
You'll lose your life up in here. That's what'll happen. You'll lose your life up in here if you don't walk a certain code or a certain path. You know, you're away from your family up in here. You're away from your kids, your parents, you know.
People take that for granted out there.
Absolutely. You know, you can't get up and go to a club when you want to. You can't get up and go to a barbecue when you want to. You can't go get in your car and go nowhere. You can't do any of those things here. You know? And I wish I would have learned that before I got to this point.
Yeah, and that's the plan, to learn ahead of time, not once we get in a situation. But as he just alluded to, you lose your life in prison if you don't comport yourself in a certain way. That's just the bottom line. I've tried to make this clear here on the channel. It's not a game. This really happens. It is very miserable and violent inside of there. Someplace I would never want to return to. No one should want to be there. It's not fit for human consumption. It's very animalistic. Individuals there are just prone to violence over questionable politics, but the politics are going to be followed at all costs by individuals who are willing to give their lives for these politics. So you have to be extremely careful heading there into prison, and really you want to take precaution here on the street so that you don't end up there in prison. Be extremely careful now so that you don't end up there, because once you're there, all bets are off. Many things are simply out of your control. Your life is oftentimes out of your control and in the hands of someone else. You want the agency over your own life, and no one else to have that. So be extremely careful here on the street so that your actions do not lead you to prison.
I'm just thankful I didn't get one of those 7 life sentences. And it's funny that they haven't, because when I was on my knees in that cell that night, the Lord told me, don't worry, you're not going to get not one of those life sentences.
You heard that?
I heard that.
How did you get the sentence reduced from 7?
They offered me a deal. When I have in my cell right now the pictures where I was under surveillance and not knowing this. My girl had told me, she said, Daddy, I think we're being followed. She said, I think they own us. You know, I'm thankful they didn't catch her. And it just happened one night, and my girl I'm speaking of, she was my prostitute, Kagan. And I had just picked her up off what we call the Blade.
What's that?
The Blade is the host road where the females work at.
Okay.
That's what they call the street, the Blade.
Okay.
I had just picked her up off Western, and we came home that night. And before we came home, we had went and hit a lick. And when we got home, the news was on. And my picture was on the news. And it said the flashy dresser bandit struck again. And I was in the kitchen. She like, Daddy, come look at this. And they had me on, but they couldn't see. I had a mask on. And every time I robbed something, I had a Louis Vuitton or a Gucci or Versace bucket hat. And I was always dressed in Versace, Gucci, and so that's why they called me the flashy dresser bandit. And I said, oh man. So me not knowing that they had got a picture of my Audi, because we would always do it. I had a Porsche, Audi, and a Harley, and I never knew that they had these pictures. So after I picked her up off when we came home and we watched the news, I told her, look, I'll be back. I gotta go with my boy and pick this stuff up. And she said, stay home with me. And like, Daddy, I don't feel right. I think they watching us. I got 3 blocks from my house. I was living on 99th between Main and Broadway at this time. I got 3 blocks from my house, and I was surrounded by 20 police cars between the sheriff's and LAPD Joint Task Force and 2 helicopters.
Holy moly.
I sat in my car surrounded with my gun, and I called back home because I had left my girl home, told her, baby, they got me. I'm FaceTiming with her, and I picked the phone up to show her all the police cars around me. She called my bro. She's like, they got my daddy, they got him. And he sent one of his runners up there, and by this time, they was waiting on the detectives to pick me, come identify me through these pictures they had under surveillance. Pictures of places that I had not robbed, but they had a picture of me coming out this place, so that told me I was under a surveillance, not knowing this. And I told her, don't worry, it's gonna be all right, don't worry, you know? And her first words to me, if they take you to jail, I'm killing myself.
Oh my word.
You know? And I'm like, just hold on. We're gonna get through this, you know? Once the detectives got to the scene to pick me up, they had pictures, and the female detective, she said, that's him. That's the flashy dresser bandit, that's him. I was taken to jail, but they only had me for 1 until they put all the rest of the crimes together. Yeah. And once they put it all together, they said, this is him on this one, and this one. And they added all those. So me looking at the jail time from going from a program jumped to a 7 life sentences, 25 to life for each case, which was 175 to life, 7 times, 25 to life.
So did your girl take her life?
No, she didn't.
Okay, thank God.
She didn't do that. My bro, he's not my real brother, because I don't have, but I call him my bro because we tight. And he put her up in the spot, you know, put her away to keep her out the light.
Did you get the sentence? So you said, how did you get them reduced?
So I fought it in LA County Jail from 22 to 24. The court slipped up and threw a bail on me for $250,000. They messed up. I bailed out that night. I went on the run.
What?
So I was hiding in Rancho Palos Verdes Mountains at a friend of mine house up there. Got a big house around. I was on the run up there. She went, because she's from Tahiti. She went back to Tahiti
He exposing a lot.
and left me at the house.
Still.
And I pulled out her Pulsar slingshot car, the little motorcycle, and was on Rancho Palos.
His friend's house on Rancho Palos. I'm glad I'm not the friend. Hey, even though they already got you and it's been a couple years, it ain't been that long. I mean, he's saying a lot. The stores he didn't hit, they ain't got him for all of it. You already indicated that. Bro.
This road and ended up in a high-speed chase with the sheriffs. Yeah. And so I got caught, came back. I was on the run for 6 months on the streets, came back, and my attorney at this time, which was the attorney for Robert Blake Beretta, who killed his wife, she was my attorney, Ms. Lotnick. She said, I got you a deal which don't consist of a life sentence. I said, what is it? She says, probably the best you're gonna get with all the evidence they got on you. She said, they wanna offer you 24 years. And with that 24 years, I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, they taking the double up sentences off of us. So really that's only come down to like 12 years. I could push that. Knowing what I did, I regret everything I did right now. I knew I was wrong. And I take full responsibility for it. Not making no excuses for it. Not saying because of the drugs I did it because I was hard-headed and stupid, you know? So I took that 24-year deal.
And for those 6 months you're on the run, what was that like? Like, well, how'd you survive for 6 months? What were you doing?
Well, I had my friend blessing me a lot, and also I had my girl creeping in and out, doing everything, making sure we was right, you know? And I was like wearing disguises. I would throw a dreadlock wig on, something like that, to move around in. So
Do you see your do you have a family?
I do. I talk to them every day.
Do you have kids?
I do.
How many kids?
My kids are grown. I have 2 kids. They're grown
They're adults now.
adults. They're in Washington State.
And what does your family mean to you, and how do you think your kids feel about your life so far?
They're gonna always love me for who I am, you know, because I made sure they were straight. But my family, man, I have a wonderful family.
Yeah.
All my nieces, I have like 50 nieces and nephews, and I'm their only uncle. So they love me dearly, and I love them all dearly. You know what I mean? They tell my nephew Kelly, he said, "Uncle Rod, I'm gonna write a book about you," you know, and it's funny I said that because I just finished writing my book, which is called "It's Not Too Late." Yes, I was being edited right now, and it's an autobiography gospel about me with scriptures about the things I did in life, and from the bad to the good, you know, and what God is using me for now.
Do you think that you're so strong in how you feel and where you stand now that you'll
Let's
never
see.
gonna go back to that lifestyle?
I know I'm not gonna never go back to that lifestyle because
Well, let's hope not. And we'll see if God is using you and how God is using you. When it's time, the proof will be in the pudding. Because just like individuals sitting there in the hospital who wants to be healed and calling on God for the healing, just like these individuals do once incarcerated, calling on God for their freedom, we want you to call on God and want to see this zealot religious side once you are free, once you are not in your mind in need of God or in need of God's help. Right now you need his help. Once you no longer need his help, we want you to have that same energy then. That's all.
the lifestyle God is showing me, I go to sleep with a smile, wake up with a smile every morning. I will not let my residence define who I am, and I will not let my mind be enslaved by my residence. And I say that because what the next man eat don't make me shit.
What does that mean?
It means whatever he's taking in don't come out of me. It don't affect me. Whatever he's eating ain't gonna make me shit. So what the next man eat don't make me shit.
It feels like you're more free now than you were when you were out there.
I absolutely am.
How does
Because
that work?
I'm free at the mind.
So
you
for
know?
the people that have their mind captive, especially here, how do you release that? How do you become free of the mind?
First of all, you gotta become one with your Lord and Savior. Your spirit. You gotta do that first because God, I'm telling you, God is awesome. You know, he can make you feel, oh man, it's a feeling that I have never received nowhere. And you're right when you said that. You seem like you're more free now than you was out there.
Yeah.
I really am.
You have a joy that only I feel like you can get through.
And that's it. You can't get it nowhere else. You know, the joy that
hallelujah.
my Lord Savior Jesus Christ give me, you can't get that nowhere. You know, and I look at these dudes, I'm like, man, why you sad, bro?
Hallelujah.
You woke up this morning. A lot of people didn't wake up. Look, think about your little homies that got knocked down out there on the block. They gone.
Yeah.
You know, you got another chance in life. This ain't the end.
Not over.
God said he will free the captives and open the prison gates.
That's what he said.
And I know that's what he's gonna do to me, you know. I know I'm going home. You know, and in my life now, I would never ever walk that path that I walk because I know what the plan that God has for me. He has a purpose. I'm somebody.
To prosper.
Yes, you are somebody, and he does have a plan. Will you follow it though? That's the question. That's what we want to know.
You know, and like he told me in Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans and purpose I have for you. It's not to harm you, but to give you a hope in the
Jeremiah
future.
29:11.
And it's funny because right now, not funny, but right now I feel
You
like
know the
he's
scripture.
preparing you in this location.
That's
in
what
this
he
Name them all.
You're learning the scriptures. You're learning how to lead and how to teach. So when you get out of here, what's your life?
I'm not making fun of him, man. I'm really not, because again, this may be real. This may be, it happens. I've seen it happen. My big bro has changed his life. Boy, look at this someone. Oh man. Woo! If he can do it, anyone can. He's in church and all of that regularly. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It is shocking. He is for real. He speaks about God a lot. He did over 20 years in prison too. Been home since 2022. No, I've been home. He's been home since 2020. I've been home since 2022. But he has changed his life. He's serious about God. So I know that some individuals are very serious about this. Talking just like this. They carry it over when they come home. But I know many who do not carry it over. It does not carry over. As soon as they come home, they forget about all of this stuff that they just said, that they had been saying for the last 20 years, and revert right back to their old ways.
Life gonna look like, and what would be like a perfect day for you now?
A perfect day for me now is to spread God's message and I ask him every morning, Lord, put the words on my lips to say to somebody today that will draw them closer to you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, so my purpose, it's a purpose he has for me, but it's his will, what he wants me to do, you know, and that's not to be stagnated talking about old war stories or anything like that. Mm-hmm. It's about giving him the glory and letting him know he's going to return and you are his child. He has a plan for you as well. You know, God is good. And I compare my life a lot of times with Paul. Mm-hmm. When he was Saul, when he was killing Christians before he became Paul, and he went on to become one of the most prolific writers in the Bible, wrote 13 books of the Bible. You know, and I walked that path. I didn't do things I'm not proud of.
For the people that idolize your life and who are in maybe Crips and gangs and who idolize that lifestyle, what message do you have for them?
Think about the path you're going down, because it's only going to lead you two places: the penitentiary or the graveyard. Ain't nothing in that lifestyle at the end going to come good from it. For one thing, the dope game is over with. You know, you can't get rich in it no more. You know, get a job. Don't be like me, spending your life in and out of these penitentiaries, you know? And I would say, go to school, get into something positive. This is when I was in Lancaster prison. I wrote a mission statement because I wanted to actually start a youth program for kids. It's called Hood to Good.
Ooh, I like that.
And I didn't get to do that because I ventured back into that lane of negativity and that lifestyle. So all that went out the window.
Well, we don't want.
And everything. And
we don't want you to venture back into that lifestyle once you come home now. This is what I'm saying. At what point do we get it? You're nearly 60 now, but you were in your 50s when you caught this case. But again, that does not mean that people can't change and that he can't change and that what he's not saying here is coming from his heart and soul and that he's being authentic. Time will tell. He is, he said, the co-founder of one of the most infamous gangs in the world. We'll see if he's changed his ways. He was just a PIMP a few years ago.
If I had a chance to do it all over again, knowing what I know now, I would have never took that path of being in the gang, being a drug dealer, being a pimp, being a drug addict. I would have never walked down that lane at all, because it's not a life that's good or nothing to glamorize. It's going to be over for you in the end.
I feel like you've said a lot of your story, and if you have anything else you want to say.
Yeah, what I would say is...
You can say it to the camera. If you
for all y'all that's out there, change, it's not too late, man. God got a plan for you all. And the message for you is just to turn to him. Ask him to help you out. Don't ask your homeboys in the hood to help you out. Ask God to help you out. Let him work in your life and not you work for yourself. Because once he open that door for you, he gonna open more doors for you that's amazing that you couldn't think to happen. I'm the happiest man in the world, and I'm in prison. But I will not let my residence be defined by who I am. And I just ask y'all to give it to God first.
Amen. Thank you so much, Chosen. That is a wrap for our episode Between the Lines with Chosen.
All right. Shout out to Chosen. Shout out to Between the Lines there. This is for educational, entertainment, informational purposes only. This video, shout out to them. We'll see what happens with Chosen once he comes home. He doesn't have a lot of time to go. Well, it is a lot of time, 8 years or so. That's a long time, particularly at that age, but at any age, 8 years is a long time to be sitting inside of anyone's jail cell. Nevertheless, he seems content with the fact that he's at least coming home because, as we just heard, he was faced with 7 life sentences at first. So he looks at 24 years, now down to 8, as a blessing. And I can understand that thinking after facing 7 life sentences at that age where it's just over for you if you get even one of them. So he still feels like he has a chance at life, even though it's some years away. Whereas at first it was looking extremely gloomy to the point where he said that he was going to blank himself before he did that time. We'll see what happens once he comes home in 8 or so years. Hopefully he can get to the fire camp and come home before then and do something meaningful again in the community. I'm trying to do something here in the community, on the street, and not just talk about it in prison, but be out here on the street and do what I can to help. There's much more that I can do and that I'm trying to do and that I will do. But I'm trying to do what I can. I'm trying to do my part and not just talk about it, but be about it. And not just talk about it when I get in a certain situation, but talk about it right here on the channel while I'm in the midst of my freedom. Let me know what you think in the comments. Stay safe and stay free, people.